Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to my GhostGG. Today, we are reacting to The Outer Worlds 2, a look at its expansive worlds from IGN first. This is about 10 minutes long.
The
Get right
Outer
into
Worlds
it.
2 seems to be expanding in so many directions, and as part of our IGN First exclusive, we previously covered the reworked RPG elements that'll give players deeper and more varied gameplay options. But now, we're here to talk about worlds. The open
Yes.
zones and regions across the different planets and moons that make up your journey in The Outer Worlds 2. This time around, they're noticeably bigger, but bigger doesn't always mean better. So I talked with art director Daniel Alpert and game director Brandon Adler about how they're rewarding exploration, creating dense environments, and thinking about level design this time around. And we dig into the trenches of Golden Ridge for a first look at one of the new regions you'll explore, and what that could tell us about the open zones to come.
We're definitely going more expansive than the first game.
Okay.
First game, we were very confined to like smaller hubs, overlands, areas.
Yeah.
Now we're utilizing Unreal Engine 5. We can have way more expansive worlds. From point A to point B is much larger territory that we can cover. And in between those areas, we have lots of like little POIs and tinies that we can explore.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on that, one of the very first things that we were targeting when we started the Outer Worlds 2 was to make these big, large, expansive areas. Really, it's what players kind of told us that they wanted the most out of the Outer Worlds 2.
I felt like their games were like small.
Working with Daniel and the other directors. We sat down and we came up with a plan to how are we going to go do that, right? So we made sure that, with big open sight lines, and that we spent a lot of time and effort on making really cool looking POIs, point of interest, at distance to really kind of draw people and really also maybe kind of bring them off the beaten path a little bit. So like when they're heading over there, we made sure that like as you're rounding corners or you're doing things like that, you see like little pops of interest. And so, being able to like kind of draw the player in those different directions. But another element that was also kind of really important as we're kind of doing all of this stuff is making sure that it was very interesting when you get there. So we made sure that we like blanketed all of our areas with just cool, fun stuff to go do, nice loot to go find, cool stories to go unfold.
Golden Ridge is an area on the moon of Dorado within the Arcadia system that's owned by the Protectorate faction. It is rich with resources, but not teeming with life. So the water is poisonous. It's desert-like, but it has this like kind of arid appearance. But as I said, it's really rich with resources, and this has caused factions to fight over this landscape.
Yeah, I mean, the resource itself, Zeranium, is new to the Outer Worlds 2 and what that means, but it's the thing that powers all of Protectorate society. All the auto mechanicals and their major machines kind of run off of this stuff, which is one of the major reasons that everybody's kind of fighting over this. So that's kind of Golden Ridge's thing. Right, so you're going to get a lot of the same types of things, that we had in the first game, right? So you're going to have cool side quests, interesting characters to kind of go and meet and do all of that stuff, but we also made sure we added into a lot of cool little things for players to go find that are little collectible type things. We have like those toss ball cards. We had a few of them in the first game, but we've added a ton of those things. You can collect them. You get cool bonuses for having that stuff. And again, another thing that was really, really important to us early on is making sure that we are telling cool, fun stories as well. Like that's part of the reward is you go into these areas and you get to learn about like the different NPCs that were inhabiting these areas, the different different characters you're just going to kind of go and meet throughout this whole thing. So that was another big thing, that there's not just a material reward, but it's a cool, fun story reward that just really enhances the whole process. One of the things that we do before we get into any area is we just have deep conversations about the overall story, not only just with the overall story itself, but the factions and kind of what they were doing, what's important to them. Why was anybody in Golden Ridge? And that kind of really sets the stage when we go to the artist and we're like, okay, there was a fight here. Here's what they were fighting over. Here's kind of why this ended up in the way that it is. We want the trench lines here, maybe for gameplay reasons, but here's why it makes sense story-wise. And then what usually happens at that point is the pods, mixtures of area designers, narrative designers, environment artists, they kind of get together and really kind of discuss, okay, well, like, here's the broad level idea. How do we get to, like, the core idea of like what is in here, the cool fun little stories that we can tell with that backdrop. That's usually how we kind of go through our areas and kind of set that stuff up.
We intentionally design each of our worlds to feel different from each other. It's a unique landscape every time you land on a new moon or a new area.
Good.
So it shouldn't be like you come here and it's like, oh, it's a little bit more of the same. No, this is completely different from the last moonscape
Yeah,
you just
that's
came
exactly
from.
what she'd have.
And the next one you're going to be visiting is completely different as well.
That said, like one thing I think that is going to really pop to people when they first get in there, and it would be super noticeable, is we have these big open areas, and Golden Ridge may be like the most open out of all of them. I mean, it's huge and it's vast, and it kind of gives you a cool feeling of like, man, this is a world I can go and explore. And you can see again all of the nooks and crannies everywhere.
Oh, baby, that was a lot of coffee.
Lots of cool things off in the distance to just like, yeah, I'm gonna go see that thing. I think that's going to show up almost immediately. I think, I won't get into what happens at the beginning of Golden Ridge, but there's a big state change in the area that where you first get over there, it's going to kind of blow people away, and it's going to make them, again, really want to go and investigate what's happening and all of that stuff. And you see that throughout a lot of our areas as well. We try to do those types of things, let the player see big events that are happening pretty early to get them kind of hooked into the area.
One of the interiors we have Xyranium Labs is this big open mining facility. So you kind of get tunneled in through an elevator and you open up, and all of a sudden it's like a huge kind of environment, but within a confined space. We're able to kind of get that feeling of almost epicness, but in a way that is still very explorable. Player doesn't get lost in there. They can find their way and discover like little goodies along the ways.
Well, again, I think a lot of what we're doing when we're building these more open spaces is we have a defined path that we want the player to go through. But, in true Obsidian game style, we allow players to go everywhere and kind of experience whatever they want. So, when we go in there, we work with the environment artists and the audio designers to really draw the player around, either through visual markers or interesting things that they're kind of hearing. And so that's really what we use to kind of softly pull the player through areas. But again, we know where we want the players to go, so we put the most interesting elements in the spaces that we want them to kind of walk to and walk towards.
We have this like decorative Art Nouveau touch kind of over everything, but we also kind of ground our technological reality as if it was still constructed in the early 20th century. With this, we're able to like kind of pull from areas of like the late Old West to almost World War I-esque items, and imbue the areas with like these like little touches. If the player kind of goes through Dorado, they'll notice like a trench warfare line that is reminiscent of World War I. And if they go like a little further into like a town, they'll still kind of have that frontier colony vibe that we wanted to hit, not just with Game 1, but also push further with Game 2.
I mean, I think a cool thing with the setting in general is everything is very analog. Everything is very clunky is not the right word, but everything has like meat to it. Things are not sleek and small, and I think that's really cool. When you go through the world, you see that. You see lots of huge wires and pipes that come in and out of things that kind of show almost the internals of like how these things work. I think it's a very interesting thing, and we've kind of doubled down on that, and you can see that in a lot of our areas as well.
Well, I'll tell you a couple quick advantages of using Unreal Engine 5. One, we had limitations before with how many people can work within a certain area at a time. That's been way more freeform in how we are able to utilize the engine. So
Cool.
Multiple people, designers, artists can be working that same area at one time without having to collaborate on top of each other. But the greatest advantage has been just the global illumination, real-time lighting, just being able to see and iterate on areas really fast has been just a game changer. Being able to quickly iterate is like just tantamount to like exploring creativity in a game like, especially like the Outer Worlds. If something just doesn't feel right, it's not working right, we can quickly prototype a change and see it in real time and play with it, and then get feedback from our game directors, our design directors, and we can just run with it.
Daniel and Brandon are just a few of the folks who are making the Outer Worlds 2, and in the coming weeks, we'll have conversations about the retuned combat and revamped flaw system. And
all right, there you have it. That's really the end of the video.
coverage on
It's new worlds. Obviously, the Outer Worlds has new worlds to explore, and you're using Unreal Engine 5 bigger worlds, more expansive, more detailed, and whatnot. And I'm excited to see that because I did like the worlds from the first game, right? I remember playing it for the first time. I'm like, oh, this game looks beautiful. Like, this is dope, right? But they were small. And I noticed that very early on. I'm like, oh, these are small worlds. And once you went from one to the next, it's like, oh, they're fairly small. I think the first, I can't even remember what they're called now because it's been so long, but the first one had more like a outdoor, kind of like a rustic, Wild West kind of vibe to it. And then the next one had more like the futuristic, like dense city. But like there wasn't a lot of open area to explore. And that wasn't like crazy. It wasn't like a really a bad thing, but like it was like you could have had it, right? But this game obviously like that first region, like it looks nuts. It looks huge. And it looks like it has a points of interest that will show up, like you'll be over the horizon, like, oh, what's that? Let's go explore it. I want that from a game. I can't wait to explore this game. Can't wait. And that's going to be eventually because I don't even know. This game doesn't even have a release date yet, as far as I know. And yeah, as whenever this game comes out, I'm there, baby. I'm there. Hope you guys enjoyed that reaction. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.